You know that feeling when you pop something into an online translator and what comes out is just bizarre? Yeah, we've all been there. It kind of makes you think translation is just a simple word swap game. But let me tell you, that could not be more wrong. We're going to dive in because hiding just beneath the surface is this incredible, hidden world of strategy, science, and straight-up artistry.
Okay, look at this. It's a perfect example. In French, you have this proverb, comme un chien dans un jeu de quilles. Literally, like a dog in a game of Skittles. I mean, you can picture it, but what does it mean? Well, the real meaning, the one people actually understand, is like a bull in a china shop. So how in the world does a translator get from a dog playing with bowling pins to a bull wrecking a store? That's the puzzle we're going to solve today.
So here's our game plan. We're going to peel back the layers of this whole craft. First, we'll look at the finished product, the big picture strategies, and the specific tools translators have in their toolkit. Then, we're going to get into the really cool stuff, the process itself. We'll see how to decode a translator's unique style and even peek inside their mind while they're actually working.
So, where do we even begin? Well, we've got to go back to the 1950s to two linguists named Jean-Paul Vinet and Jean Darbonnet. They came up with this brilliant model that helps us understand the first, most fundamental choice a translator has to make. They basically said a translator is standing at a fork in the road. Path number one is direct translation. That's the literal, word-for-word approach we all think of. But when that path leads you to a dog in a Skittles game, total nonsense, the translator has to take the other path, oblique translation. This is where the real magic happens. It's about taking a detour, rethinking the whole sentence to make it sound right, to make it feel natural in the new language.
Right, so if you're taking that oblique path, how do you do it? You're not just guessing. You've got a specific set of tools. Vinet and Darbonnet called them procedures, but you can just think of them as the 7 key techniques in a translator's bag of tricks.
So you've got these 7 procedures. The first 3, borrowing, calc, and literal translation, they're all part of that direct, straightforward strategy. But the really fascinating ones, the ones that require some serious creativity, are the tools for oblique translation. We're going to focus on 3 of the most powerful ones from that part of the toolkit.
First up, we've got transposition. This sounds technical, but it's something translators do all the time. It's basically changing the grammar without changing the meaning. You swap one part of speech for another. So a French noun phrase like de son lever, which is literally upon her rising, becomes a whole clause in English as soon as she got up. Same meaning, but it just flows so much better in English, right?
Next is modulation. And this is where it gets really clever. This is about changing your point of view, shifting the perspective just a little bit. So instead of translating, "it is not difficult to show," you flip it to the positive and say, "it is easy to show." The logic is identical, but the phrasing feels so much more natural. In fact, Vinet and Darbonnet called this the touchstone of a good translator. This is what separates the pros from the amateurs.
And finally, there's adaptation. This is the big one. This is where the translator has to be a cultural interpreter. If a book written in England talks about the game of cricket, a translator for a French audience might just swap that out for the Tour de France. Why? Because it carries the same cultural weight. And hey, you ever wonder why movie titles are sometimes completely different in other countries? This is it. They're not just translating the words, they're adapting the whole idea for a new audience. Okay, so when you start putting all these tiny choices together, all the transpositions, the modulations, the adaptations, something really interesting happens. They're not random. They start to form a pattern. They create a kind of linguistic fingerprint that is totally unique to that translator. And this is a huge deal. It means that when you're reading a translation, you're not just hearing the author's voice, you're hearing a duet. It's the original author and the translator, whose choices, thousands of them, are woven into every single sentence. It's their discursive presence, as one scholar put it, and it's always there.
So how on earth can you spot these invisible fingerprints? You can't just read a book and feel it. Well, this is where modern technology comes in. Researchers now use these gigantic collections of digital texts. They're called corpora, some with over 100 million words. By crunching all that data, we can spot a translator's habits in a way that was literally impossible just a generation ago.
And sometimes the method is surprisingly simple. Check out this chart. By doing something as basic as counting how often a translator uses a common word like say, we can see their style pop out. Translator A here uses say way more than average, while translator B barely uses it. Now this could just be their personal habit,
Or it could be the ghost of the original language, kind of whispering in their ear and influencing their choices.
All right, so everything we've talked about so far has been about the finished text, the what of translation. But now we're going to shift gears and do something really mind-bending. We're going to stop looking at the page and start trying to look inside the translator's brain to understand the how.
One of the big ideas here is the interpretive model. It says that good translation isn't about swapping words. It's a three-step dance. Step 1, understanding. The translator reads and fully gets the meaning. Step 2, and this is the wild part, de-verbalization. They intentionally forget the original words and just hold on to the pure, formless meaning. Think of it like getting the juice out of an orange and throwing away the peel. Then, step 3, re-expression. They take that pure meaning, that juice, and pour it into a new glass, using the words of the new language.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This de-verbalization stuff, holding a pure meaning, it sounds a little abstract, maybe even a bit mystical. But believe it or not, we now have some incredible high-tech tools that can actually make this invisible mental process visible.
So here it is, the big question. How can we actually see inside someone's head while they're doing this? How can we watch a translator think?
Well, we've basically got 3 amazing tools. First, think aloud protocols. It's simple. We just ask translators to say everything that's going through their head as they work. Then there's keystroke logging. This software records every single thing they type, every backspace, every long pause. It shows us exactly where they struggled. And finally, my favorite, eye tracking. We can see precisely where their eyes are looking on the screen for how long, showing us which words are causing the most trouble.
When you put all these methods together, it's absolutely revolutionary. For the very first time in history, we're not just guessing what's going on in a translator's mind. We can observe it. We can measure it. We can see the mental effort, the hesitation, and the incredible chain of decisions that all happened in the blink of an eye. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, is that translation is so much more than just swapping words. It is a deeply human craft, made up of thousands of deliberate, strategic, and now, thanks to technology, finally analyzable choices.
And that leaves us with one last really big thought to chew on. We're getting better and better at mapping the incredible complexity of the translator's mind. So what does that mean for the future? For artificial intelligence, for machine learning, and maybe for the future of language itself?